Hello everybody, I'm Sharpened Blade, and today we're going to take a look at the Miguron knives Pagos. Now, I got this from White Mountain Knives. It was listed at $189.99 USD. I believe they're sold out right now, but you might be able to find one on Miguron Knives website or on the secondary. This knife is made in China, and there's three variations. There's this one with the blue carbon fiber, there's one with the red carbon fiber, and there's one with just plain carbon fiber. So you're looking at a blade length of 3.25 inches, a blade thickness of 0.12 inches, a handle length of 4.18 inches, a handle thickness of just under half an inch, and it weighs 3.94 ounces, and it has an overall length of 7.39 inches. You've got an M390 blade in a very gradual drop point style. It's sandblasted, so it has kind of a grayish finish to it. You have titanium handles with a marble carbon fiber inlay. Like I said, it comes in the three different styles. They did a really nice job on this carbon fiber. Sometimes when you get like a blue marble, you don't see much blue, but this you see enough blue in that it doesn't look extremely random, so that's nice. And it's also on both sides of the handle, so that's really nice to see too. And they all come with blue accents, which is a little random with the red carbon fiber, but still it looks nice on this version in the plain. And you might like the blue with the red. It's up to you. Personal preference, but the blue accents are really nice. I like blue on knives, so it's really nice to see. The little collar there is cool looking too. But the milling is fantastic on this. It looks and it feels so nice. The chamfering's done extremely well. It feels nice in hand. I wish it was a little bit thicker, but that's just my hands. But it does feel nice. The pocket clip, you can feel it. It's not a hot spot, but you can feel it when you use it. However, I don't think this would be a hard use knife. This would be more of a gentleman's carry, so you probably don't have to worry about that being a hot spot anyway. It is a frame lock. It's locked up to about 25%. It has an insert and an over travel stop, and so that's nice to see. It's a thumb stud deployment, plus it has a front flipper. So the front flipper works extremely well. The jimping catches your thumb just enough that it's effective, but it doesn't tear your skin to pieces, which is nice. The thumb studs also work extremely nice. And on the drop, it's extremely smooth. It's on bearings, obviously, and it's super smooth. You can slip off the thumb studs a little bit though, I find, so you just have to be careful. You get used to it after a bit, but they are a little bit slippery. They stick up high enough that you can get to them easily enough, but they are rounded on the top, so you can slip off, but that's not a big deal. And the fuller that's on this, it's just purely aesthetic. You can open it this way, two-handed, but you can't reverse flick it open. So I guess it's not purely aesthetic, but it's just not as fun. So anyway, yeah, the carbon fiber looks really nice. They did a good job on it. However, on the back here, it feels really nice and flush, but on the front, it feels flush back here, but it slowly starts to lift up a little bit, and you can feel the transition from the handle to the inlay. So it's not a big deal, but it's there. I don't know if they're all like that or not, but you can feel it. It's too bad because it's flush everywhere else, and it feels really nice. The only way you know that, it's just the difference in the texture. That's the only difference here. It's just perfectly smooth. So they did a good job. They could have done better, but anyways, small nitpick there. So some pros and some cons on this knife. Now the pros thankfully outweigh the cons by a lot, and I really enjoy the knife. I called it my favorite knife of 2021 in the unboxing. I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favorite of 2021. At the time, it definitely was, but I've gotten a lot nicer knives since then. But this is definitely a really nice knife that you should check out. But yeah, we'll get into that in a second. So some pros. The branding is to an extreme minimum. You just have the M390 on the blade, nothing else. You have the Miguron Knives logo right there on the pivot. That's awesome. I love it when it's just on the pivot like that. Nothing on the pocket clip. It's just a very sterile knife other than the M390 on the blade. And they put Miguron Knives in here on the back spacer. So that's another little nice way to hide some more information. So yeah, I love that. The design is absolutely beautiful. I love this design. It looks and feels like it should cost more than $189.99. The detent is dialed in perfectly, as you saw. It's super smooth. Both methods of deployment are extremely easy to use, and it slides in and out of the pocket very easily because of this being mostly on the carbon fiber. It does slide in and out very easily. Now some cons on the knife. I've already said about feeling this inlay, but there's some basic quality control issues that a lot of people have been running into. One that I experienced was the knife being fairly dull. It was sharp enough to cut things, but it wasn't sharp enough to really slice through cardboard that well. But it did come fairly dull out of the box, and that's disappointing on a knife at this price point. That's disappointing on any knife at any price point. So yeah, that's an issue that should not have happened. Some people had an issue with the pocket clip wiggling. Mine is solid. There's nothing wrong with mine at all. So that's good. Two issues that you wouldn't hope to see on a knife at this price point, but for me, overall, it's not. Now, I know I didn't have to deal with the pocket clip, but it's not a deal breaker for this knife at all. I don't really like the finish on the blade. I would have liked to seen a satin finish instead of this sandblasted finish, but that's just a personal preference. It's not a heavy knife, but it could have been lighter. They could have done some internal milling. However, they did do milling here for the carbon fibers, so maybe they might not have been able to do more milling than that, but it feels nice in hand. It doesn't feel too heavy, but it could have been lighter. And the biggest complaint is the thumb studs. They feel nice and they look nice. They stick up high enough that you can access them easily from like when it's closed. However, it does get in the way when this knife is sharpened. On my work sharp, I kept hitting this thumb stud, so that's not great. I couldn't reach all the way back here with it, so that's an issue that if they do more of these, or if they do another run of these, I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it's a limited run or not, or any different design going forward. I hope they keep in mind that people are going to have to sharpen this knife, especially since you're sending the knives out dull. But but anyways, yeah, that's an issue. Still not a deal breaker for me though. I love the look of this so much, and I love the action on it. And speaking of action, the sound. Oh, of course I failed at that time. The sound is so crisp. Yeah, it's really nice. I love fidgeting with this knife. But yeah, for me, it's totally worth $190. You might not think it's worth that. Would I say $190 is a good value on this? I think it's a good price. I think it's a solid price. If it didn't have the quality control issues, I would say it's a really good price. You're getting a really good value because, like I said before, the knife feels a lot more expensive than it is. However, those issues exist, and that does kind of lower what they should be charging for the knife if they're going to cut a few corners here and there. So I think it's hard to say. It depends on how you look at the value of knives. But for me, I think it's priced exactly where I would price it. Of course, I'd like to see it cheaper. Who wouldn't want to see a knife cheaper? But yeah, I think it's 190 is fair for this. Before I learned of the issues with it, I thought 190 was an insane value for this. But like I say, I think it's fair now that I've seen the issues that people have had, and also that it came dull. But yeah, overall, it's a solid knife. If you see one for sale, give it a chance, because the action is phenomenal on it. They did such a good job dialing in that detent, and it just looks fantastic. But we'll do some size comparisons now, and yeah, it should be it. So we have it against the Smock and the Malibu. We have the 940 and the small Orion. And then the channel favorites, the Rat Model 2 and the Rat Model 1. So you can see it's not a huge knife. It's not too small of a knife. It's kind of that in that medium range. It's a nice size. It's perfect size for a gentleman's folder. But yeah, it's not a huge knife by any means. But yeah, that should do it. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.